In the Bay Area, home prices are declining in 2023, but the average home price is still $1.1 million. If you're looking to buy a home at that value, the minimum amount of money out of pocket would be 3.5% for a down payment on an FHA loan. That's $38,500, and 3% for closing costs. That's $33,000, a staggering total of $71,500. But a change to a form by the California Association of Realtors has real estate agents concerned if buyers in the market would be required to put down even more money to the tune of an additional 3%.
It could be devastating, in my opinion.
Real estate agent Rico Rivera is concerned about the new change to a piece of paperwork called the seller payment for the buyer's broker agreement. This determines how a home buyer's agent is compensated. But a change to the form could signal the home buyer could be on the hook to pay their agent. A massive change to the real estate transactions in the state. Rivera is the president of NORA, the National Hispanic Organization of Real Estate Associates.
I'm more concerned it's going to impact the lower income communities. That's what I'm really concerned about. I'm more concerned that that wealth gap is going to widen.
The change made to the form by the California Association of Realtors is in response to a trio of lawsuits making waves in the real estate industry. The first is a lawsuit that resulted in a 2020 settlement between the U.S. Department of Justice and the NAR, the National Association of Realtors. The DOJ sued the trade group over allegations that rules made by the NAR allowed brokers to misrepresent the services performed by a buyer's agent are free, which is not true. The buyer's agent is paid through escrow from the proceeds the seller makes on the property. The second and third suits are class action lawsuits out of Kansas City and Chicago, claiming the NAR's rule that requires all sellers to pay a buyer's broker is unfair. That rate is usually between 2.5% to 3%, as seen here in this screenshot of an MLS. The California Association of Realtors tells me the changes to its form are being made to stave off lawsuits. But real estate agents are concerned this change may flip the current model on its head.
Because, we know home ownership increase your wealth. So it's going to X us out. And that's the really sad part of the puzzle, because now we're not passing on generational wealth.
Anna Tutt is the president of the Realtist, a trade organization representing black real estate agents dating back to the 1940s, when black agents could not hold the title of realtor due to racism. She's concerned this change in paperwork could create a new norm where home buyers are on the hook to pay their agent. Having to bring an additional 3% in cash to close on a property could mean fewer black and brown home buyers.
Is really going to push out not just black buyers, Hispanic buyers, our minorities. It's going to push them out.
Home buyers for marginalized communities generally have less purchasing power due to income inequality, higher student loan debt, and lower credit scores. Remember that average home price of $1.1 million? If a buyer is responsible for paying their agent, that means an additional $33,000 to close the deal. That raises the minimum amount of money out of pocket from $71,500 to $104,500.
We're not going down the road where it's a required document at this time.
Jennifer Branchini is the president of the California Association of Realtors. She believes the current model, where the seller is responsible for paying the buyer's agent, is the best option. And while this new form is available, the model has not changed.
It's very few buyers that either make up a difference of whatever they've agreed upon with their realtor, or have to, in fact, compensate the agent directly.
When I asked her about the concerns of Black and Latinx agents worried that a changing compensation model could push prospective Black and brown buyers out of the already expensive market, she told me,
well, certainly that is not what we want to see.
But it's something we will be watching for. Julian Glover, ABC 7 News.